make it better than yesterday. You can always find a way to start over again. When the sun rises, you can start over again. A new day, you can make it better than yesterday.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl Diamond. I am elated by this girl spending time with me today. I am so excited. I'm so excited. So, I want to introduce to y'all the amazing Ciora Thomas out of Pittsburgh, PA. I am so excited to introduce y'all because she has been out here. So first of all, let me tell you how I was introduced to Ciora. The very first time I see her breaking up a motherfucking breaking up an event where Senator Bob
Pacey,
had kind of brought Billy Porter to
tokenized Billy Porter.
to tokenize Billy Porter. And all I see is this long hair black trans woman getting up there like, yo, we is not having this. This is some bullshit. Like it, honey, there's black trans women that was here that could talk about us and our experience. And the police, the police get up all trying to be all threatening and da da da. She was like, yo, is somebody gonna stand up for black trans women? Is somebody, these people all in my face? Is there some real allies in the motherfucking room?
If y'all arrest me on Pride Month and take me out here, please get away from me. Where's my allies in this room to get these police away from me? Who's going to stand up for a black trans woman in this room? Who's going to stand up for a black trans woman?
Let me say something right. Hold on. Let me say something right here. Let me say something to you right now. I see you. I hear you. I understand your frustration. I get it. I get it.
She made her point that night.
And it was such a powerful moment. I got chills when I was watching it. I was like, yes. So I was so excited when I got to meet you at Creating Change. So just excited just to see you doing the work that you do. So welcome, Ciora.
Thank you for having me. That was an emotional day. That was an
It
emotional
was an emotional day.
day.
Tell me about that moment. Tell me about that moment.
Oh my God. I was isolated in a way. And when you do this work, especially, and I'll say where I live, my voice was being silenced. My experiences were being silenced. My leadership was being silenced right within a space where our voices was like the most important to be heard in that space. And when I first heard of the event, because of course I didn't hear about it until last minute. When I first heard of the event, I was just taken aback because there were some of my colleagues that were involved too. So this was just kind of like, when I say colleagues, just, folks in the community that was involved too. And it just was like, girl, why ain't nobody give me a ring when this was going on? This is important. And Billy only comes here when Billy wants to come here, when there's a check involved. So what was tea? On my way there, I was contemplating on what I was going to do. I said, I'm always been a girl to shut some shit down. And I was contemplating, is this going to be the move that I make when I get there? And I had the nerves, my nerves was shook. Because you never know what's going to happen at the end of these things. When you stepping out there, you never know what's going to happen. And I got there and they were just talking about some bullshit that wasn't really directly honoring the life of Black trans women and girls in Pittsburgh. It was just some Hollywood hokey pokey shit that Senator Bob Casey was just trying to seem like he was more inclusive. And that's all it was. Because a lot of times when they have these kind of conversations, they have the conversation, everybody go home and don't nothing change. Every person still in the same position, don't nothing change. So it was a day, and I was disappointed in Billy because I looked up to Billy for sure. He's from Pittsburgh. He's from the Hill. I grew up on the Hill. I went to Lyons Middle School. Like that's a school that's like historically on the Hill. Like, and to see him I saw him for who he was the first time that day too. Because I wanted to believe so much different. But I was let down that day too. And especially as a girl, I'm not oh shit. Listen, even though I've been doing this work for a long motherfucking time, don't nobody owe me nothing. I work for everything that, I have or get within our organization. Like I work hard for that shit. So for it to continue to in that moment be erased that was just too much for me.
Well, I appreciate just the courage. I am somebody who is I'm always, and I think it's like a remnants of my kind of my church upbringing, because there's like a there's something in me that likes to do things in decency and order because of that. And there are some times when that is like a box that, or
Yeah.
a ball and chain that can stop you from getting what you need or silence you or blah 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 blah. So sometimes when I see the tactic of disruption, my automatic response is to be like, yo, it could have been worked out. I'm not saying I don't never gonna be like, it's anybody needs to be silenced, but I'm always like, what other way we could have done this, particularly when we're talking about allies or da da da. But sometimes knocking shit down, flipping the motherfucking table, and really interrupting the program, don't let the program go on as possible, is just what you need to do, because motherfuckers will just roll with the punches and you won't even get hurt at all. So
Yep.
I appreciate the power in people who move in that way, and people who have the finesse when particularly you, and some other girls I can name too, but particularly you, who knows this needs to happen, but I also can do it this way if this is the way
Right.
it goes.
Right.
You know, you have the finesse and the wherewithal and the wisdom to know when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate, and I love that. And so I appreciate that really, really, just something that's I admire.
Thank
So you are from Pittsburgh,
you.
and for people who don't know, Pittsburgh just got tons of Black ass history in it. It has tons of, we got a lot of celebrities that's connected to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We just mentioned Billy Porter, but some older ones. When we think about like Christina Aguilera, when we think about even old school like Mr. Rogers from growing up,
Yep.
millennial Mr. Rogers
Yep.
from Pittsburgh. I'm an artsy fartsy kind of motherfucker. So one of the most popular people for me that is specific to my memory, because I'm artsy motherfucker, is August Wilson. August Wilson,
Yeah.
a Black playwright who is just like, when we think about Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis and just so he just has so many. There's particularly 10 plays by him that set specifically in Pittsburgh. It's like a day. It's like basically a epic tale, a Black experience within 10 plays. And when we think about Fences, when we think about Seven Guitar, when we think about The Piano Lesson, it is 10 different ones where he's just sharing the Black experience in the 1900s. And it's comedy, it's tragedy, it's passion, all about the African American life. And that is such a unique storytelling tool. So check out August Wilson. And so tell me how you grew up. Tell me about, like, who was loving on you in your younger years? Who sets the foundation of Miss Thomas?
Ooh, I would say, ooh, my family, my mother,
Okay, your mom.
my mom.
Okay,
She was my rock, who held me together with what she knew at
gotcha.
the time, who did everything she could to raise us. She was a young mom, and she was a kid and raising kids at the same time. Uh, and I always go back to that when I think about where I started, who embodied Ciora, like who was I looking at and was like, I want to be that girl. I want to be her. And it was my mom. It was my mom. She was a hustler. We never wanted for nothing. I was the oldest, so I knew when she was doing some hustling stuff too, to make it as a young mom. And I was catching on to these things that I was watching. And I would say that's who, in those moments, before I knew about anything trans, in those moments, that was the woman for me that was like it.
So who
Um,
was the person that kind of was affirming you, that was kind of instilling in your confidence? Was it your mom too?
I would say my grandmother.
Okay.
She was the first person I actually had an open conversation with about me transitioning, and she I already knew, tea to me, and it's a gag because you think you're sneaking around, you think you're doing all the things of the things that don't nobody know, and they watch it. They was watching, and my great grandmother Lily Graves, she was
Oh,
watching.
Lily.
Uh-huh. And I told her, and then I started to I felt more comfortable with exploring how I was feeling. And even though those in those moments it looked like defiance in that moment, but this was me exploring who I was as a young person. And again, this was I didn't know I was gonna be no goddamn activist. I didn't know I was gonna be running a nonprofit. I was just a young girl who was exploring myself, starting to explore my body, explore my sexuality, and just being a young person navigating Pittsburgh, thinking I was the only one, thinking
Mm.
I was the only trans girl that lived here, and trying to figure out where my community was when shit started to hit the fan, when I got a little older and a little thicker, and I started getting my moans off of in-house pharmacy, and my boobs started to grow in, and everybody started to notice things was happening with me.
Period.
So I had to find an alternative family in those moments. So that was the beginning.
So who were some of the people that you saw when you started to venture out into the world, and who were some of these kind of like heavy hitters in the community, not necessarily activists, but just people who were kind of iconic in the Pittsburgh area that were like, I may not want
Yeah.
to be you, but you are a example, a living example of something. Who were some of these people?
Well, there's a little story before I get to who these people is.
Hmm.
So I remember this night like it was yesterday. My routine, I would gather up my clothes, my affirming clothes, and my pieces, and I would put it in a bag and I would throw it outside my window, my bedroom window. And I would creep down the steps and try to get out the house so nobody don't hear me. It'd be in the middle of the night. And I got outside, went in the back, because I've been hearing stuff. I started to go to the little centers, little GLCC centers we have up here, but it was just a bunch of white queer folks. But I was still hearing information on where the girls, like who the drag queens and the transvestites, what they call back in the day, and um, I got dressed up, went to the bus stop, caught the bus downtown. Girl, when I got off that bus and I hit Liberty Avenue, those from Pittsburgh gonna know what I'm talking about. Liberty Avenue. It was a host stroll, and there were Black trans women up and down Liberty Avenue. And this happened to be a Friday night. And this was the first time that I was exposed to other trans people, especially Black trans women. I had to be like 14, 15. And this was the first time that I was exposed to it. And I had already been testing the waters with sex work. Um, I didn't know too much about it, but I knew it was profitable from what I was hearing just through community, before I even had community, just the whispers in community. And I get down there and I meet Weisha and Bubbles. Weisha and Bubbles were best friends. They was big girls, and very intimidating girls. But for a moment, they took me under their wing and was just teaching me about how to survive down here, and was like giving me some encouragement on make your coin, get your coins up front, be in and out, be safe. When you hit the block, make a noise so we know you back downtown. Um, and that's how it was. And I kept going down there. I went back home that night. I snuck back in. It was a successful sneak out. I got in, I got out, and I got in. Um, but then after that, I just, after experiencing that love in that moment too, and then shit started to hit the fan at home with my family because I was transitioning. That family downtown felt a little bit more like
Like
family to
home.
me. Yep. So I left for good. And I wouldn't say for good. I would say like I would be gone for months at a time. I was still a kid. So my mom would find me or someone would find me. They would take me back home. Then I would end up leaving again. Then I go back home. So it was like this transition that was going on. Um, but when I was downtown, that was my family. That's where I found love. But that's where I also experienced like the first bits of harm in my life as a young girl. And not just from like clients or society, but the girls. Those same girls that I looked up to, as soon as like they're a piece of trade or something downtown, because when the new girls come downtown, it's an uproar because I was new, I was tight, I was right, I looked like something. So it was when the boys got into the mix, that's when the jumping start. That's when I had to fight, and we was fighting up and down the street about these boys. But it was still like it wasn't so bad where I didn't leave. I had nowhere to go, but it wasn't so bad where I was like, oh, I'm not fucking with y'all no more. Like that's it. We would get back downtown and make our coins and do that. So I would say Weisha and Bubbles and Chocolate. These were older girls, older than me in the time, that was really pushing downtown, like the stroll. And it was really making it known. Like if you was a new girl downtown, there was no way that you could walk downtown without them three knowing that you were walking downtown on Liberty Avenue. It was like that kind of situation. And truth be told, they was the aunties. We didn't call them that, but they were the aunties of my time when I was a younger person. So those were like
Mm.
the influential figures that was in my life at that time. The first girls that I got exposed to.
I know in doing my research about you, there was some trying times of kind of like homelessness and
Mhm.
in these moments. And so the way you're describing it is partially because you were looking for acceptance. You were finding, you were running away. It sounded like you were like kind of running away from home and finding this place. So in these kind of like trying times, what were what were some of the what were some of the obstacles that you were seeing? Maybe not that you were going through, but people kind of around you down there. Like, because I know, anytime like I would go in a place, like I was more of like an internet girl, but
Mhm.
when I would go in a hostel, it really was just for the kiki of it. And
Mhm.
so, but down there, we would kind of talk about what everybody was going through. So I was hearing everybody kind of stories. What were some of the themes that you were getting when it comes to the community out there?
Same situation I was in, or we were transitioning, our parents weren't with it, and they kicked us the fuck out.
Period.
Um, that was a story every girl had when we were down there, and that's why we were down there because our parents were literally putting us out the home, making us uncomfortable in the home. Um, and we were trying to make our own way. And I was homeless for years, for years.
Just
Um,
kind of couch
like
surfing.
not even outside.
Oh, damn.
Outside. Yeah, I would find a piece of trade and stay with trade some time here and there. But for the most part, I was sleeping in the T station, Point State Park, like literally outside. Like when I was done working for the night and the sun was starting to come up, that was one of the most depressing times, or not one because it happened to many, but that was like the wildest and depressing time to me because it's like, where do I go? And I don't, there was like this thing, and I didn't want to be seen in the daytime because I was hoeing all night. So I didn't want to, but I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was with me at that time, but I didn't want to be seen during the daytime when people get up and they're going to work and going on with their lives because
That's a
I was a
certain
people
level of
watcher.
shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a people watcher and I was envious. I was envious that these folks can get up and go to work and have their regular lives and do this. And here I am sitting on this goddamn bus stop with these little ass clothes on, cold as shit.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, I was like, bitch,
It was cold.
Cold up there.
Girl, yes, cold. But I was envious of that, and I tried to hide myself away. I would go under the bridges. We got 1,000 bridges up here. I would go under the bridges and hang out with the other homeless folks, even if it wasn't other trans folks, because some of us found places to go during the day. Some of us didn't. I was one of the ones who didn't. And would find myself just trying to isolate myself away from society in those moments. But I felt free at night. But during the day, it was just.
So when did this phase of your life start to get a little bit more foundation under it? When did it start to be a little bit more solid?
When I had more experiences. I had to have those experiences that I had while being homeless to realize that like what we were experiencing it wasn't by yes, circumstance, but there was more to it that my brain started to formulate. Like when I would go to the centers, the gay and lesbian centers that we have in Pittsburgh, and after a while going to a place and all you're getting is a slice of pizza and a little $10 gift card, you start to be like, bitch, now how is this really going to sustain me outside of me being a homeless teenager? How is this sustaining me? Even if I saved a gift card for a week and went 10 or 5 days a week, I'd have got $50, right? And even during that time as well, I was also experiencing a drug addiction. So I was going through that as well and not managing myself like I didn't know how to. But from those experiences, I just started to realize what we were going through wasn't okay and it wasn't all right. And nobody was really stepping in to change the trajectory for our futures. This was it. We were supposed to just be on that stroll and die on that stroll, and that was it. So
I remember this this documentary I watched about the serial killer named Anthony Sowell, and it's called Unseen. And I love true crime kind of shows.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite documentaries, particularly based in Black culture. And one of the things that I noticed about Anthony Sowell's victims is they all were addicts, and so he got away with killing like 11 people because the people that he was killing was Black women addicts. And even in the documentary, one of the store owners who was like in the store owners in the neighborhood specifically said that he felt like this serial killer was doing the work because he was getting rid of the riffraff. That's how much he was emboldened to
I think I've seen something like that before.
Not give a fuck about these women. So why I bring that up is because in the narrative, when they were sharing their stories, some of the victims that got away and who had came in contact with him, because some of them kind of got away from him, like they was like, oh my God, he was about to kill us, and so blah 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 blah. Watching their stories and seeing how much it had in common with my mother's own addiction, and these Black women just sharing how when their addiction started, it was just like, oh, this is recreational. I'm out partying and my friends is having some fun and somebody offers it. And it just kind of starts off as this recreational thing. And all of a sudden it becomes out of control. Can you share that process with me when it comes to how your addiction started?
Yeah. So it definitely started in ballroom. I used to walk balls because that was another family I was finding while I was homeless, was the ballroom community. And my gay parents got high all the time. When we would go to balls, Cook was there all the time. Like it is now. I mean, it's no different, but that's how it started. I took that first bump and it was bumping ever since. Then it went to other things that I was doing. But this was also me trying to fit into a family that I desired. and that I wanted. And I was in the House of Ebony. That's my very first house. I was in the House of Ebony, and like every House of Ebony, at least during that time, I'll speak from my experience. We was the Banji house. And the Banji house that was doing drugs as well. And that's what brought me to, the drugs. And then I would feel good when I'm walking my category, and I can just be higher than high, walking my category, and masking what was really happening in my life and what was going on, the disconnect from everything else in my life that I felt so close to. And
Then it
I
starts to be
lost
kind of
touch.
like self-medicating. It starts
Yeah,
to like, yeah, it started off as fun, social, but then as you get into life
yeah.
and then when some fucking shit, some trauma, some bad shit happen, you like, oh, I need to kind of disconnect from this fucking trauma. So bam, I'm about to
And that's what it gave.
made me feel good.
That's what it gave. It got bad. I was even doing dates for drugs. It was bad. And I don't regret it. It was a part of my life that I navigated, I learned from. And I stood 10 toes down on who I was then and who I am now, even in sobriety. But that was my journey for a long time.
What was what was your process of coming out of that? Like, was there a definitive moment? Was there? I know a lot of
Yeah,
times people say it's like a you tried and then you may fail a couple of times, but then what was a definitive moment for you to come out of that?
my organization.
Mm.
My organization. Uh, I tell this story a lot. I remember the last time I was downtown. Um, me and the girls had just got done working, and we went back to Point State Park, somewhere we used to sleep, lay down downtown. And I got jumped. The girls jumped me and robbed me. They got me good. I had my back turned, but they jumped me and robbed me. And after that whole ordeal happened, I was just laying there in front of the river and looking up at the stars, and I'm crying, and I'm just like, I'm tired. Like it was either I gotta go, and I was like suicide, like I can't do this no more, or I gotta do something else. And that was where my thought process, and I lay there for hours, just crying and thinking what direction to go. In one direction was, how can I unalive myself the fastest in the most effective way where I won't feel pain? And then there was this other part of me, it was like, damn, like why the fuck why are we all going through this? Like why, no baby, why do the girls even have to um be down here like this? Like why? And that why was just putting me in a position of I gotta do something. So I got up and did. I checked myself into a little rehab up here, and it worked the first time. I've definitely heard it don't work the first time for everybody. But while I was in there, I had my little notebook, and my organization, it was called Sisters United. When I first started the organization, and I just started writing shit. I didn't know what the hell I was writing. I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I knew I wanted to be able to support the girls on the streets, and make sure that we had some type of foundation, or whatever that looked like. At that time, it was just like resource sharing. Like I was just like, you can go here to get resources, you can go here to get resources, or I would like use my whole money when I got out of the center. I still commingle downtown, but just with a cleaner version of me. Um, and I would start using my whole money to get like little toiletries and little things for the girls downtown. And I start making these little bags. Child, I was putting them in condoms at first. Listen, we had to start from somewhere. But I would put the little, like the soap and the little shampoos and shit that I would get, and I would put it in a fucking condom and tie it up. And then I would just hand it to the girls when I was working the beat. And then I started to get connected with another nonprofit, well, the Gay and Lesbian Community Center in Pittsburgh. And I met a white trans woman there. Her name was Nancy Evelyn Gold. And that bitch, and she would be okay with, God rest her soul, she passed away. But that bitch really put me on. She really put me on. She had a YouTube channel that she was already doing. And I went to talk to her and I was like, I want to talk about the Black trans girls, us downtown. Like, I want to talk about this, us girls in Pittsburgh. And she gave me the spot. She gave me like a whole little segment on her YouTube show. And I would talk about our struggles. I would go downtown and interview the girls that was downtown. Um, and we would have conversations on what was going on downtown. And that's what I started to do for a while. Still handing out like the resources, and just navigating community. But then I started to really navigate like the nonprofit spaces and community because I was becoming this voice for Black trans girls that were homeless in that time. And it went from there. But Nancy definitely like she was the one who like really like believed in me so much to put me on her platform to talk about my experiences. And once I started talking, there was no there was no stopping me. So and I went from there.
When I ask my guests some of these questions about their life, um, it's not about like me trotting out their trauma as like this trauma porn. It is me sharing somebody relatable's experience around these particular things. In this particular moment, it's addiction. And so I wanted Ciora to kind of share how it started and then how she came out of it as an example that somebody might be in the beginning. They might be in that stage where, oh my God, I'm going to the balls and I'm going out and I'm partying and it's fun. And they think they got it under, they might have it under control. And then, like many, many people, it just gets out of hand and just spirals out of control. And so I like to share these experiences because somebody might be listening and it resonate with them and it leads them to either not go down the path, or if they already in it in addiction, they might hear something that's relatable in this particular guest's story that can lead them down the road of recovery too, or into sobriety, or just a better situation. And so I share this because, and I share these stories, not just about addiction, but just about um, some of the downsides of people's lives, because it might be something, a nugget there that might change a listener's life. Does that make sense? So it's not about, just me trotting out somebody's trauma. It's about the triumph of the story. I'm never going to share a story where there's no joy in the end. So I just wanted to add that. Another element about you that I think is so dope is, as I watch you kind of navigate social media and your space, you kind of give us a little insight into your home life. And
Mhm.
to me, it seems like you have created a home, or like a oasis, kind of like a Black trans homestead that that just feels like, it feels like Black women that I grew up with, in the Midwest and in a little bit in the South, where, bitch, you got chickens, you got a garden, you got all this kind of stuff. Like, tell me about that, because I know when I'm looking up content that's about like creating this kind of oasis and homesteading and kind of just creating this kind of sustainable living, it is really dominated by a lot of white folks. And so
Yeah.
even though we know Black farmers are out here, we know Black people have lived this way for a very, very long time. And so tell me, how did that come about? How did you create this kind of home for yourself?
I don't know. I have no clue. When I was able to be in a position to buy my own home, I think that opened a lot of doors for me as far as just thought processing. Because coming from a space where I didn't have stable living and stable housing, And so being in a space where like this shit is mine, the property is mine, and that was liberating for me. And it's sort of to like, what can I actually do with this? And I know a couple actually local Black women in Pittsburgh who raise chickens. One of my homegirl, Patrice, she raises chickens, and I was infatuated and always watching her videos like, damn, how can I get some chickens in this motherfucker? Like, and it is possible. And I dreamed it and I made it a reality. I went back there and started putting shit together, putting the little chicken boxes on YouTube, watching videos. And I remember one night, girl, I was on my phone. I done had too many glasses of wine. And I got on this goddamn the chicken website where you can order the live chickens from. And I ordered 6 baby chicks. And once you order it, it's over. Like, it's over. They're coming. So I had to get prepared for them and went from there. Now I got like 30 something chickens back there.
Damn.
So yeah, but I love it. It's my oasis away from the work. Because I am engulfed in social justice and nonprofit work 24/7. I literally work Monday through Sunday, whether I want to or not. Yeah, I find space, time to find respite or a little vacation here, a little vacation here. But ultimately, I'm working every single day to keep this organization afloat so that it can be led by another girl later on, down the line. And that's just the sacrifice that I made with this work. And that's just, where I am now. So when I'm able to come home and I'll be sitting back there with my chickens, smoking a blunt, and just talking to them, child, with my dogs, and that has become my peace.
Tell me about the first time that you went back out there and was like, oh my God, there's some motherfucking eggs out here.
Because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for it. It really took me back. But I was raising them chickens, those first 6 chickens that I had. And when they were outside, and I wasn't checking no eggs because I wasn't like used to them having no eggs. Girl, I went back there and it seemed like 100 goddamn eggs was back. They just was popping eggs everywhere. And I'm gathering them up. And then I remember sitting in the kitchen and I had like 6 dozen eggs, 6, 7 dozen eggs. And I'm like, what the hell I'm going to do with all these eggs? And I just started giving them away to people.
Knock on your neighbor's door. I have some
That's what I did.
And eggs is expensive, child.
That's what I did.
So happy.
I gave everybody had a dozen down the street because I had to get rid of those. But girl, but yes, that has been, and being able to like produce life on my land through chickens has been something inspirational. Seeing the eggs hatch and the first breath it takes, in this world, and seeing it grow up and have its own personality and all those things. I love it. I love it. It really brings me joy to experience and see that. So and who would have known?
No, I live in an apartment, so I rent, and I'm so excited about wanting a home, and so that's what I'm working on. And so I grew up around country Mississippi women, and so I've always wanted to have a garden and have I don't want chickens, but I do want a garden. I do. Maybe some chickens will come later on, but I want to grow my own tomatoes. I want to grow my own collard greens. I want to grow my own corn. I want to grow my own watermelons. I want to grow my own stuff. And so I am looking forward to that kind of life. So you are definitely inspiring me to be able to, do that. I'm so excited.
Yes, do it.
Another element of what something about you that that you share often and talk about often. You talk about being polyamorous. Polyamorous.
But to be clear, polyandry.
Yes.
Very
specific.
Yes.
So tell me about that journey, because We all have a journey in regards to our sexuality, and we're talking about gender. We a lot of times we talk about gender identity, but our sexuality is complex, and when it
Yeah.
comes to how we are navigating the world, in relation to our identity, and so sometimes that looks very, very different for people. So, how did you come? Tell me how you started early on, and tell me how did you come to where you are today? How did that transition happen?
Yeah, so I was a monogamous girl. Like I was one guy for me, that's it. That's how I started dating. But as my dating life like matured and I matured, I realized that I had multiple desires. That, only there's something that someone could give me, and not financial or anything, emotionally, just a person. Um, One person can give me, and something else another person can give me. That solidified what love felt like for me, in those moments. And after experiencing dating to be like someone's trans girl like for a couple of months or a year or something, that shit it got old to me. Because that's what was recycling. I was like messing with the trade because I don't even date cis men no more. I haven't dated a cis man, talked to a cis man in like, oh my gosh, maybe 5 years, 6 years. Um, and so there was a couple levels to it, the transition to being polyandry, but it had a lot to do with dating the wrong people for the wrong reasons and not fully understanding how I wanted to be loved and how I deserved to be loved. And even though that was like unconstitutional to what like love looks like, especially to monogamous folks or church mothers or whomever. I was learning. And I remember YouTube. I was watching YouTube and I seen a relationship with this woman. And she had two husbands. And at first I was very much like, girl, I know that's messy.
Talk
Like
about
I know.
passion.
Yes.
Come on, passion. Passion is the world.
Yes, girl. And I went down a fucking wormhole. I went down a wormhole because I'm like, yo, is this what I'm feeling? Is this what I'm um desiring out of love? Is this what I'm wanting out of love? And I took my time. I was single before my current relationship. I was single for maybe about 3, 4 years. And I was taking time to learn me again. Um, because sex work will do a doozy on you too. When you are a sex worker most of like your life, and then you no longer are however that looks like for a person. But when you start navigating dating and how the PTSD and the traumas and all that start coming up from being a sex worker into relationships. And I was seeing that was happening a lot with me. But it brought me to this space of understanding that love for me can also come from multiple folks. And anyone I'm dating is going to have to be comfortable with that. And that was the ultimatum that I give anyone who's going to be in a relationship with me. It's not based on sex. It's not based on any of the sort. I think a lot of people uh, make it about like, oh, threesome and hot sex in the room, and that's what it's not. It doesn't give that. It gives building sustainability for the group, for the folks in the relationship. And that's what it gives for me in this relationship, and understanding that this is just how I want to be loved, um, in my life now. And that's just what it is.
What has been some of the key shifts when it comes to coming out of kind of living this kind of monogamous life, and I think you hinted to, you got tired of this kind of cycle of objectification with some of the cis men that you were dating, and then what are some of the key shifts? So apparently, I assume you're dating Black trans men, or
Yeah, for sure.
and so what has been some of those kind of key shifts that has been sustainable for you once you made that kind of transition to this?
First of all, I'm not dating broke niggas. Let me be clear on that one. Not dating anybody who doesn't have like something going on in their life, like, and can be sustainable themselves. I think that was the first, because I was taking everybody in. I was taking everybody in. But that was a key. That was a shift for me. Being someone who gave, and being in a position where, folks care enough about me to want to support me in that way. But ultimately, another transition was, how do I word this? Is my man gonna watch this? So let me, but no. I think another transition was keeping up with multiple partners, to be completely honest. The idea sounds amazing and it's wonderful and it is great, but how I navigate like my love and how much that I can extend from me into an individual, if that makes sense. And that's just coming from monogamy. I felt like if I, like in my current relationship, if I start talking to someone else, there's this guilt that overpowers me. Like I'm doing something wrong. When I can just be honest with my partner if I'm feeling somebody else in that capacity. So these were just a few things that I was learning as I was like transitioning into being a polyandry woman. And I think I know I'm still in a space of learning, with this. So I'm always looking to the non-toxic polyandry gurus and folks who have been like in this type of love language and life a lot longer than I have. So yeah, I think those would be some challenges that I was like experiencing as I was like transitioning into it. And I know it'll be better as I move along. I'm grateful that because for real, girl, when I had decided I was gonna be a polyandry woman, in my mind, I'm like, girl, ain't no nigga gonna be okay with that. Like, girl, you gonna be alone forever, bitch. Like, go on. But
Because this may be the cynic in me, when I be thinking of like how I'm engaging with dudes, because I am monogamous. I date cis men. I don't date trans men. I'm open to when I meet one that's amazing. I just haven't.
right, and that's how it started for me. So I get that wholeheartedly.
That used to be weird. So, so when I'm looking, I'm like, damn, I already gotta sell myself as a trans woman. Like I gotta be like, because I know if this is me, there's a cynicism in me. I know that it comes with some shit. Like you get what I'm saying? It comes with some shit. You gotta be a certain level type of strong, confident man to be out here with a trans woman. We dealing with the shit that comes with us from the world all the time. So not only will I know this from even my family, like I remember when my brother was young that he used to get teased at school because he had a trans sister. Yeah. And he didn't even, you get what I'm saying? He didn't transition. Why the fuck he getting teased at school about me? But it's the same thing about our men. They're gonna come across some attacks that might happen towards them because they're with trans women. So
that's something I was tired of. I got tired of that. That's one thing I got tired of, specifically with cis men. For me,
and as you get older, it gets worse because at least when I was younger, kind of what you were talking about, we kind of on the same playing field. Usually I'm running across hood niggas that ain't got shit, just like I'm a hood bitch that ain't got shit.
Yeah.
But we really just coming up and using each other. And ain't nobody taking no purse, but us being together is way more beneficial for both.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got half of your rent, I got half of the
They
rent.
call that trauma bonding.
Yeah, we trauma bonding, or
Mhm.
just economically, just doing our thing together because we,
Mhm.
there's tons of people that just stick together because economically we ain't got no other options.
Yeah.
And so I would be in situations like that, and I would be in situations where when you get older, as men get older, they become more stable. They become more when they, especially if when they get into the like 30 35 plus,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, if now I'm more stable, I might got a little piece of a coin to kind of share with a woman that come in my life. And
Mhm.
so why am I gonna choose you and I gotta deal with all this other stuff when I can just deal with a regular cis girl and I'm stable? And so it sometimes I've been in those situations as I gotten older to where they're like, you just bring a lot of stuff with you. Even
Yeah.
you're amazing, you're smart, you're beautiful,
All the things,
all of
beautiful
the
gowns, beautiful dresses, like
gowns,
all of
beautiful gowns.
that.
But you come with some shit that I don't have to deal with. So why
Yep.
would I sign up to deal with it? And so that's for me, that's what has been difficult.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. It just feels, how do you feel like it
I feel like I took my power back.
you took your
I
power?
feel as a woman, I only allow things in my life these days that affirm and love who I am. Um, I was again single for those years and I got to know me again, even outside of the social justice work, outside of all the traumas that I was experiencing from being a sex worker. Like, girl, I dived into therapy, I dived into self-care techniques, like I dived into all these things. And I started understanding more of what I deserved as a woman. And that brought me here. That brought me here. And sometimes that love is going to be from multiple people. And that's just what it looks like for me, and will look like for me. Um, Someone asked me before, like, they's basically calling me greedy. Like, girl, like, girl, get you one and hold on, you don't need another. Um, but understanding also, I'm a Libra to the core, 100% to the core. And I mention this because what I've also realized throughout my life, and I had to be honest about myself, is that even when I was in a relationship, I had other partners. So why not? And no matter how folks look like, that's what I was doing. Not on all my relationships, but there was still a desire to have another partner. I don't know if that's because I was a hoe, if that was because of what it was given, but that has always been me, but I just never embraced it. I was being sneaky, in situations. But now that I can like be like loud with like I date multiple folks. I'm an independent woman who's worked hard for what the fuck she got and living how I want to live. There's a power in that for me personally that I felt like I never had. Being able to just love um has been a journey. And this is a journey. This is a journey. I think this is something that I'm still fully learning. Yes, very much invested in, but still learning on what the little technical things look like in between this. Like, because there's still some terms, there's still some conditions. Like, I can't be doing what I want to just because I'm polyandry. That don't mean I can go out and fuck on my partner anytime that I want to. That's not what it gives. So there's still these little
Nuances.
technical things that are being worked, yeah, that are being worked out. So yeah.
I love that. I love you saying it's still being worked out, but it still is in the process you have gotten is more powerful and still been worked out. Yeah, there's hope for me yet.
Listen, there is because and comma, I found, especially dating these days, when day one, when I'm upfront, like, hey, I'm a polyandry woman, they can make a decision from there. and so can I. Because usually, like, it's the niggas who make the ultimatums. Like, this is their ultimatum, and then we be like, oh, okay, daddy, I'll be the sad bitch for a couple of months. Like, but we're usually the ones having to make the decisions about the ultimatum on how to love someone. But to be able to even stand to have that shit utter out my mouth to any man that I'm dating is a source of power for me. It's like, I'm not scared. I'm not afraid to say how I want to be loved. I'm not afraid to say how I want to feel when I'm in a relationship. I'm not afraid of that anymore. And I used to be. I very much used to be.
So tell me about Sister PHG. Tell me about how, how are you impacting your community? I see it, because I'm in community, but for the people who are just being introduced to you, what are some of the things that your program offers?
Housing is the number one precipice of like our work. And of course that stems from my history with housing and reason I founded the organization, and our history with housing in Pittsburgh. And that's something that I'm proud of, to be able to provide like this direct, like transitional housing and permanent housing solutions for Black trans girls and femmes. Like that's like our baby. That's what we prioritize, for our community, is making sure that they have safe housing. And being in a position, because again, I never thought, girl, I never thought this shit was gonna work. I didn't.
We
I
never
didn't.
do. We never
No, like I didn't. I had no clue. I thought I was going to maybe do a couple of protests, say my piece, and go back to my normal mundane ass life. But then it worked. And then it worked. Then I bought us a house, the organization. Someone said it to me before too, because I told it was one of my gay kids, that I bought a house for a community before I bought a house for me. And that was true. And I never even looked at it like that. But my sole purpose on starting this organization was to make sure that we would never, ever, even under our government, like we would never have to, and I can't help everybody, I know that, but we would never have to like suffer through homelessness, that we could actually have support through this, support through homelessness, and a support system with people that look like us. And that was super important for me. And not to keep them, and a lot of stuff I didn't know then that I know now, and not to keep our community like dependent on the nonprofit industrial complex, because nonprofit is like welfare, if you want to be honest, if I could be frank. And when I say nonprofit is like welfare, I say that in a way of the dependency that it places upon people to not want to do anything else, but depend on nonprofit work. And how do we empower our folks to want more than what the system is offering us? And what I understood that to be was housing was the precipice, like, of the first step of getting us out of deep in the margins. But how could we also make our community like self-sufficient where they didn't need us no more? And that's just becoming, or is, through our housing models and the housing models that we're creating as sisters. So, and we do a lot more stuff than that. We do a lot more shit than that, but that is like the precipice of our organization. That is, I wanted to push us into like a space of like housing developers for like the LGBTQ community type of situation for us in the future. But for right now, these different housing pieces that we got that are fully serving trans people and specifically trans people of color, through these housing programs, they're working.
I know there's a particular segment called the Stonewall Inn, and it's like
Mhm.
a drop-in center. Can you talk about that portion of your
Yeah, so the Stonewall Inn, of course I didn't come up with the concept of the Stonewall Inn. That's something that has historically been around. Um, but it was time for us to also transition into something that was in the heart of the city of Pittsburgh. We really function within the county, and that's Allegheny County. So, and like many cities, we have your city, and then you have boroughs and counties that are, surrounding, the city. And the work started in the city. And because of the gentrification and such that was going on in Pittsburgh, our base had to be moved outside of the city of Pittsburgh and just right adjacent in the county in Swissville. That's where our current drop-in space is. And excuse me, I had always envisioned on having a space centrally located downtown. And when I think about stuff, when I think about like new programs in our organization, I always think about like our history. I think about what brought us to this point, how I'm even able to stand outside comfortable and hold protests and open programs is because of the work that our ancestors have done, around the world. And um, the Stonewall Inn really stood out to me, especially because we're adjacent to New York. New York is down the street, and well, it ain't down the street, but it's close enough. But and I've done a lot of work alongside um, the trans community in New York, and gained so much knowledge. Even just traveling around, these last couple of years, I was not exposed to all of this when I was growing up. Even when I started doing this work, and I'm even embarrassed to say this, but when I was a young person, I didn't know about Marsha. I didn't know about Sylvia. That I didn't know about all the matriarchs that were doing the work before me, and that was because I was siloed in a white ass city called Pittsburgh. And yeah, we got a lot of Black history here, but a lot of that history is also how white supremacy has like really um, blindsided the Black community in Pittsburgh and kept us away from the outer world, and didn't allow us to really obtain those that education and resource on purpose so that we can just stay here and could be complacent to what's here. And that's it. But it brought me to just wanting to open this space again directly that is in the heart of Pittsburgh and downtown, where we can offer the same services that we're offering, but in a more centralized location for folks to be able to come to. And we serve hundreds of trans people a year through Sisters. So I know that capacity is going to grow when we're like actually downtown, but it's still a testament of time, a testament of time. Because there's been so many times where I wanted to be like, fuck this. Like I cannot, and I will not. But I had my little pity patter and cried it out and got up and kept going. And that space is going to be a testament to just the years of work that it took to even have a space. A Black trans girl having a drop-in space, baby, is a historical thing within itself. But to be able to have that again in the heart of our city, to provide the resources and sustainability models that we're going to be providing is even huger, because you can have a space, anybody can have a space, but building out the programming and the success for your program participants is important, and that's what I'm putting into it. So I want to make the Stonewall Inn in the 60s proud of the Stonewall Inn in 2024, and be able to do even more than our ancestors had the access to have back then, and amplify that even more through this space. So here we go.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
Gimme euphoria, more than peace of mind. It's the
What has been bringing you euphoria this week?
Our bank account.
Amen.
No shade. That is what's been doing it for me because I got a lot of goals and I'm an ambitious woman, but it takes a lot of money to move these goals that I'm doing. And we're okay. We are certainly not $1 million or even a $500,000 organization. Yet. Tori Cooper, yes. I heard her in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, But I'm seeing what's happening as I'm continuing like just to navigate different spaces and different folks and using my voice to have like those internal conversations where nobody's around, no one's in the room, when I'm having, conversations with different funders and different people who believe in the manifestation of this work and for it to like really work out for us. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to sustain beyond my leadership. So that is something that's something that keeps me up at night. That's why I'm fundraising every single day or engaging in some way to keep these things, coming in for the organization. Because again, I don't want to leave it to someone and they have to just pick up so much after me. If I died tomorrow, knock on wood, folks would be, whoever took the organization over would have something to work with, at this point. So I just want to keep that up, like, and really keep that up. And that's what like sustainability of our organization looks like for me, to be able to like really produce that, for the future. That's the goal, is to create continue creating that foundation, for our folks, especially in a city like Pittsburgh. So, yeah.
That's dope. What's bringing me euphoria this week is in the process of doing research about Pennsylvania and thinking about bringing you on the show, it sparked this memory. And I remember I was doing a speaking engagement in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Is at Dickerson College, GSA, kind of for the kids. Basically, they really hustled me, but it was a good hustle because it was actually one of the most fulfilling speaking engagements that I have ever done. I've done of course, I've done tons of speaking engagements, but this one was particularly great. So they paid me my rate, but what I didn't know that I was expected to do, I was expected to do 3 speaking engagements across a weekend, and they only paid me for 1.
Oh no.
Right. So what it was is I got to do a speaking engagement for some middle schoolers, then some high schoolers, and then some first-year college students. So while I felt like I was hustled, the fucking conversations were so dope because I was able to come in and have these conversations with kids that were so powerful and just it was so dope and so amazing. So that's what I was there for. And while I was there telling my story, there was this woman, kind of like this nerdy little librarian looking white woman. She came up to me and she was like, "Hey, Diamond, I love your story. I would love for you to go with me to the basement I want to show you something." Now, mind you, this little kind of very, yes.
What?
But I'm always, my white ancestry came out and was like,
See,
sure, take me to the basement.
girl, I'd have got up out of there. Girl,
So she took me downstairs. She is a librarian, and she took me to the basement of the library of the college. And Mama is creating a LGBT archive in this college that it revolves around Pennsylvania's LGBT history. And she had so many tons of Black trans little nuggets of low-key organizing work that was being done prior to this kind of renaissance, like different, like little local magazines, local zines that was happening, switchboards, and it just was so like a little treasure trove of Pennsylvania, Central and West, and just most of it was Central and West Pennsylvania history of just LGBT history. And it was so dope that we had somebody in this small little area who was actually doing the work to kind of preserve these kind of classic things and protecting it within the kind of endowment of this college. It was so dope, and she took me down there, and it just was amazing. So thinking about that experience and how this one little person who she's a librarian, how important library and reading and all these.
Oh my God, yeah.
How important that is, and how there are literally people like myself who may not be doing direct services, but they are doing this kind of archival work to kind of preserve our history so that it cannot be forgotten, especially in this political era where people are literally trying to erase us or.
That's another thing that's giving me euphoria.
Criminalizing this. So I just want to say that was what was giving me euphoria in researching to prepare for this show with you. And also, I appreciate you for coming on the show. You are, you are a new girl that I'm newly exposed to, that I appreciate, and I see you coming up, and I see you just doing amazing work, and I appreciate you. And thank you for joining me on March's Plate.
Thank you for having me. I was like fan struck when you asked. Just because I've been listening for so long, and this was like a part of my journey. March's Plate was definitely a part of my journey too, especially as I started to mature and I started to have more access to trans things. So it was something that was always in my ear. When I can get a chance to listen to it, to kiki, to cry watching or listening to March's Plate, just because y'all was talking about some deep shit sometimes, and I could understand what was being said. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. So, and I hope I gave you everything you needed today.
You did. I love it. You did exactly what I needed you to do. So I love it. So tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find me on what the kids call IG. I was calling, you might have to edit this part out too, but I was calling Instagram the gram a lot. And the kids was like, what the hell is the gram? And they said IG. I thought you could call it the gram too, but whatever.
They call it the gram.
Yeah. Anyway, but you can find me at Ciora Thomas on everything, on IG, Facebook, X. But you can also find Sisters PGH in the same places, IG, Sisters PGH 412. And our other social media platforms, just Sisters PGH, capital T, capital PGH. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
And I will put all of those links in the bottom. And thank y'all for listening. We'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.
I make it easy to love me. I make it easy to care for me. I make it easy to share all your world with me. And if you have the best of both worlds, it still wouldn't be enough.